So I'm going to cover a few topics about help and support this morning. You know, the software lifecycle doesn't stop when we ship the product or release it online. Right? If you can't use it, if you don't understand how a feature works, or you run into a problem, you need to be able to do something about it. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how good we make the software. So the topics I'm going to cover today are cover our help and support offerings. I'll talk a little bit about the online portal. This is a pretty underutilized feature that we've had for a while, largely because it's kind of hard to get to in the past. And we didn't pay too much attention to that, but we're paying a lot more attention to it these days. The third topic there is the Intuiflow knowledge base. We've got a big effort within the company to not only just have end user documentation for the software, but to have a lot of guides and how-tos to help you use the product in the real world, right? And a lot of that has come from interactions that Dan and his team have had with all of you, and you know the issues that we've fixed over time. Intuiflow University is a great interactive training resource that we have for Intuiflow. It has a few modules that walk you through exactly how the product is meant to function, and Dan will go over that. And then Dan's other topic there is custom integration and onboarding services. Dan's team can definitely help out in those scenarios. So to move on here, our offerings are pretty similar across the different editions of the product. So we have the basic version is the one that's hosted in the cloud, right, that most of you use. We do have the NetSuite version of Intuiflow, and we also have an on-prem edition of Intuiflow, so that if your company doesn't support being in the cloud, or if your environment is restrictive enough that you don't let anybody connect to the internet anyway, we do have a version of Intuiflow that will operate effectively in that environment. So for the cloud environment, you know, we have the help and support portal. We have online customer service and technical support. So you can come, submit an incident, interact with your tickets, and I'll kind of show you the online features here about how that works. The biggest difference in the cloud environment is that we have 24/7 monitoring and critical incident support. So I have a team that is sitting on top of all the monitors for all of our global incidents and instances words. And we monitor all different kinds of metrics to understand whether an instance is healthy, whether response time is acceptable. And so we can proactively engage in that environment. And then the cloud product also has the 24/7 critical incident support. So if something breaks in your environment that's blocking your business process, because we're hosting that environment, we can also help do something about that as well. Data Center Edition is a little bit different. We still have the help and support portal, which, you know, if your on-prem environment is connected to the internet, then your end users can get there. But if it's not, then your IT department or help desk has access to those resources to be able to look up information, see all that kind of stuff. The main difference with Data Center is that I can't offer 24/7 critical incident support because I don't host it. So I don't control all of the pieces that would be necessary for me to ensure that that site is got 3 nines uptime and is working successfully. What we do is in the administrative guide that comes with Data Center, we provide a lot of the same information that my team uses internally to support. So we provide suggestions for metrics on what to monitor, how to interpret the diagnostic information that you can collect from the application, so that even in the Data Center version, your IT department or help desk has a chance to be able to solve the problem quickly and get access to that information. NetSuite's kind of the same environment, right? That's Oracle's sandbox. So there's not too much I can do in terms of infrastructure related issues. And we've handled a lot of the NetSuite support in the past by email, or people sending to support@demandfortech.com. And over time, trying to push more of this into the online portal environment that I'm going to show here, because it's a much better experience, not only for us, but for you. Right? One of the big problems that we have with email support today, well, I should remember my slides. So we have resources globally. I have support resources that are in Central Europe. I have support resources here on the East Coast of the US and on the West Coast. So that's primarily what's driving our business hours, which are in UTC, Monday through Friday. You can see we also have partnerships with a lot of different folks globally. So when you get into custom onboarding or integration scenarios, there's a lot of options to engage with resources that are in the time zones where you need them to be. So the online portal, and you can see it down at the bottom here, we are using Atlassian. All right, so this is powered by Jira. We didn't go off and invent our own help desk software. That's a pretty tall mountain to climb. But you can see here, this portal gives you access to a bunch of curated content topics that you can see across the top there. Some of it are just kind of basics on getting started with Intuiflow, how to use your account, what to expect in terms of things that you'll see in your inbox in terms of email. And then we have some curated topics that are more focused on planners and people who are actually using the application to produce some value. And then topics that are more interesting to your admin and IT staff, right? How do I be sure that the application is properly configured? What does this error message mean? How do I set up new users? How do I turn on SSO in my organization? Basically, those kind of topics. One of the big advantages of shifting to the online side, as opposed to more email-centric, is that you get a chance to see all the requests that have been opened for your particular organization. When we register customers to be able to access the site, we also set that up within the organization. So when you create a ticket, you have the opportunity to share that with the rest of the organization so that everybody knows what's going on and we don't end up having multiple tickets talking about the same problem. Or a lot of our customers have internal help desks that the planners and end users are supposed to go through that internal help desk first before they go contacting other folks. And this is another check and balance because you have the option to at least enforce those kind of policies. You do get email notifications when you create a request. You can also add watchers to these requests. So if you have partners within your organization that need to stay informed on a particular topic, you can add them and they'll get notification. If they get tired of seeing the notifications, there is an option online to actually turn the notifications off. Again, I get hundreds of them. Sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming. And then you get access to the knowledge base. You can see you got a search bar at the top, and I'll show you a little bit further in here. As you're creating a ticket and you're typing the information in, it's doing the same search through our knowledge base. So hopefully you might find an answer to your questions without even having to submit a ticket. Basically, in the past, we've kind of had self-registration turned on the site. So if you ever sent an email to support@demandfortech.com, you might have noticed that you got an invitation email back from the Jira system to say, hey, we've got your ticket. You need to go set a password for your Jira account. We had self-registration turned on because we're vetting those once they come in and who's a customer, who's not a customer. And at that time, we weren't really kind of bucketing people in the organization, but we've gone through a big effort to kind of clean that up and deliver a better experience to you guys and keep better track of actually what's going on ourselves. So we're going to turn self-registration off in July. The easiest way, most of you probably already have access if you've ever submitted a customer support ticket, but you can contact your account rep or still send us mail and we'll set that up. You'll get a confirmation email back from Jira. It kind of looks like that. Sometimes you have to go dig around your junk folder until you set up the fact that Jira is trusted. They do come from Jira at demand-driven-tech.atlassian.net, right? So all of the emails originate from Atlassian.net because we're using the cloud product. I'm sure we're providing the same content to folks who have attended the conference, so that the little QR code down there will take you to the site. It's kind of an ungainly URL to get there. We are changing the link that's in the about screen in the product so that it points here instead of the Zendesk implementation that we used in the past. But that QR code will absolutely take you there. So as I said, kind of the big ticket features in the online portal are the curated topics, the ability to search the knowledge base, and we also have site notifications basically on each portal, so that if we need to communicate something, yes, we know there's an issue with Azure, right? Microsoft messed up their DNS again, so don't log out. This is the way to do that, and we can also handle notifications via email. You can see when you search, you have all kinds of options that show up here. It's pretty quick and pretty useful. Over time, we're going to be pushing a lot more content into this knowledge base, so it'll become more useful over time. Right now, most of the stuff is based on either some of the content that Dan's team had already put together and brought over a bunch of stuff that was in our user documentation, cleaned up, restructured some of that stuff. For NetSuite customers, the entire user manual is in the online environment.
Right. Will it be other languages?
I'm sorry.
Will it be in other languages?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Particularly the knowledge-based content itself, we're working to get that localized. All of the user interface components in the online portal will also be localized. Jira doesn't actually make it super easy for us to do that. For the application, we use crowding, and lots of people can come in and help contribute to that. Jira makes you poke through a bunch of individual screens to go get all this stuff here. So when you come to submit a ticket online, people look at, so I spent a long time in support at Microsoft, right? And we always hated email support. And I'm still not a big fan of email support. It certainly is convenient to sit down and type in emails, support@demandgrowtech.com. I'm having this problem. Problem with that is, not everybody's really good at describing what their problem is, or even telling us where the problem is. We've gotten tickets in the past where my site is down. Great. What's your site? Where is it? What do you mean down? Can you not get to it? Did some screen not work? And so with email, the thing I've noticed the most is in many situations, unless the person who's submitting the ticket is super good at describing problems, we end up playing 20 questions, right? It's, you send me a mail, I see it, I got a ticket, okay, I'm gonna work on it. Now I have 10 questions, and I'm gonna send that back to you, and now I have to sit around and wait for you to answer those 10 questions. Those 10 questions come back, and now I have to ask some more questions because I've read your answers and don't really quite know what's going on with that. So by shifting to a more online model, we can get better quality tickets, right? And we can solve your problem faster. My goal is that our support team is able to resolve your request on first contact. That was always the goal of Microsoft as well, right? You contact me, hey, I know the answer to that. I'm going to give it to you. Here you go. You're good to go. Everything's great. In an ideal world, you'll find a piece of KB content and we'll resolve your issue before it ever even gets to the support team. You know, that, I admit that that's kind of an idealized goal, but you know, aspirational goals are good. And so you can see we've kind of broken down where to submit the tickets by a bunch of different categories to be sure that they get to the right people quickly. We get questions that come through the support queue about license, billing, purchase orders, all those kind of things. That's handled by our finance team, right? So we have a form that's more specific now to any questions about your subscription, your license options, you know, payments, billing, invoicing. We also have some options for cloud customers to request a backup, right? Or restore the backup, I should say. One of the advantages of being in the cloud is that we've got point-in-time restore from SQL Azure, which allows me to time slice, you know, within a couple of days, I can get to a 5-minute interval, right? So if somebody makes a mistake doing an import or accidentally import some bad data, you know, we can walk that back to the point before that happens. And we've got a good process in place for that. It takes us about an hour total to get the data, to get your site reset. So we've got a form to do that. Scheduling a software upgrade in the cloud environment. We ship monthly. I realize that a lot of customers can't keep up with that pace. You have your own checks and balances to go through. You know, it's a little unusual in a cloud environment where you're caring about the version of software that you're running, but totally understand that, right? So we're providing the option for you to say, I would like to upgrade to the April release or the May release or the June release, such and such time, and we'll get that scheduled, and away it goes. On the technical support side, we've kind of split into two paths. One is ask questions about functionality, and the other one is report problems. Questions about functionality are, well, I ran the simulation and I got these results and I really don't understand why these results produce the numbers that they did, right? I thought I should have had a buffer size like this. And Dan's team is great at solving those kind of problems. So getting those into their own queue and being able to get them to Dan's team in a hurry is more effective for everybody. And then reporting problems, this gives you the option to, and there's prompts on the form, right? So submitting a request. The form is going to vary depending on the type of request that you're going to make. So if you're requesting a backup, I want to know exactly what time you want me to restore to, or I should say. If you're submitting an incident, data center allows the application or allows the administrator to collect a bunch of diagnostic information. We're moving that into the cloud version as well, so that when you submit a ticket related to a problem, you can collect some diagnostic information for us and attach it to the case, and that'll help us solve problems a lot quicker. One of the things that happens when people have issues is things that happen in Intuiflow are very time and data sensitive, right? The results you get depend on when a particular background job ran, right? Because it's looking at the number of days of forecast and the current day, determining when it needs to generate orders and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of it also depends on the CSV data that was imported. So it's very helpful to be able to see all the different inputs and understand exactly when and how the problem happened. That helps us get to that root cause quite a bit faster. So submitting the ticket online gives us more options to collect that. Eventually, I would say either this summer or fall, we want to give you a button inside the app itself that will automate all of that stuff, right? So you get a little touch screen that says, we had a problem. You want to create a support ticket. Boom, hit the button, we'll collect that data and drop it in up here. But this is getting that infrastructure started, getting people used to using this channel. So when you create a ticket, you're going to get a confirmation email. that gives you a link back to that ticket in the portal. Probably the easiest way to get the URL into your favorites is to respond to one of these things. You can reply to that email. It will attach things to the case. Once you've created the ticket, actually to get an attachment on using the email thing is the only way you can get a new attachment onto that ticket. So what do we do with those tickets when we get it? So when you submit a ticket, either by email or coming to the online portal, the first state that they end up in is triage. So we triage every day, sometimes multiple times a day. You know, as people get a few minutes, they'll take a look in the triage bucket and say, oh, I can answer that question, and then send that off. So once they pass out a triage, we kind of take a look at that thing, be sure priorities are set correctly, that we understand who the customer is, that we've got enough information to act on that. In triage, if we look at a ticket and see, I don't really understand what you're asking us to do, we'll ask you the questions at that point before it even moves on. So once it goes into triage, it's in awaiting support. Our support engineers will pick up tickets out of that bucket. They're in progress. Ideally, we'll resolve it right there. Sometimes after we go through the troubleshooting process, we have to involve the engineering team to produce a fix. And while that fix is being developed and tested, you'll see that the status of your ticket will be engineering, right? Once that fix in engineering has been created and merged into the software and kind of available for you to verify, you'll see it's in a verified fix status. And then after that, it ends up being resolved. So pretty simple. Probably the one I like to point out the most is the awaiting customer thing there. So what happens sometimes is we ask a question or we need some more information. The ticket will be in awaiting customer status. And what that means is it's waiting for you to tell us more information so that we can move forward. Right? And a lot of times the ticket's going to sit there until we get that information. We do weekly, we'll go through and look at tickets that are in awaiting customer status for an extended period of time. You know, if it's a week or more, we might ping you again and say, hey, you know, is this still an issue for us? Or can we resolve this out?
Right. What we do in that process, right, is we do that follow-up, but if it goes for 30 days without a response, then we're going to send you an email saying, hey, we're going to close this ticket out. We haven't heard from you in a month. We assume this has been resolved. Right. You can still respond to it and reopen the ticket, but after 30 days, if we haven't had a response, right, we're not going to continue to look at that thing over and over.
Cool. So this is one of the big advantages of being in the online site and having the organization set up correctly. You can get a list of requests that you've submitted, whether they're open, closed, resolved already. Or you can look at all of the tickets that have been submitted for your organization. You get a list that kind of looks like that. You can filter it by issue type, status, whether it's open, closed, and then you can drill in to each one of the tickets. Here you can see it'll tell you what the request type is, the URL that you submitted against, what time zone you're in, and who it's shared with, right? And by default, it will share it with your organization. You can add other individuals by putting their email address in there, right? So if you need to share it with anyone else that's outside your organization that doesn't have an account, you can do it this way, right? And that is the only thing that they'll be able to see unless they have another Jira account that gives them access. If the notifications get to be too much, little button here, notifications on, off, right? And inbox rule is definitely recommended for those of you who have large numbers of people in your organization that might be sending you, adding you as watchers to cases. I definitely have one of those. Let's see, next slide. So, Intuiflow knowledge base. Like I said, we've had a big push within the company over the last 4 or 5 months to get a lot more content available to you guys, right? When the company was smaller and we were just starting, having the user document that in PDF, we'll give it to you, email it to you, make it available somewhere, was good enough to get started. But, it's a big product. It has a lot of features, a lot of different surfaces that you interact with. And it can be very complicated sometimes to understand why the product is behaving the way it is, or how to do what you want to do. Right? We have a whole user conference to explain how the product can best benefit you in your business. So getting all of that knowledge into one spot where you can search it, where if you're submitting a ticket, it's going to look through there and see whether there is something that will tell you about that. Beta features, definitely their documentation will be via this online portal so that we can get it to you quicker. Our turnaround on this is much quicker, right? And sit down, write a piece of content, hit publish, bang, it's available immediately, right? Where the publishing cycle for our end user documentation is a little bit longer and more involved. You can see there's a knowledge base for the cloud product. There's a knowledge base for the data center edition that builds on top of that. Because basically the on-prem edition of Intuiflow is based on the same version that runs on the cloud, except it's a month or two behind due to the extended test cycle that we have for data center. And there's a NetSuite one. This is the kind of an example of the kind of content that you'll see in the knowledge base. That particular page there, I believe, was pulled from the Intuiflow end user documentation, but much handier to have it available here, where if you're not quite sure how the workbench works or how to do sorting, filtering, stating different views, now you've got that information available immediately. And searching this is another capability that we're looking to add into the product over the summer and fall. Right, so find a little search box, probably in the about menu somewhere, where you can search without having to open up another browser, go find a URL, do all that. Search within the product, it will give it to you. And university. You want to talk about university here a little bit, Dan?
Yep. So you guys might have been familiar with university.demandurimpact.com, which was for the standalone product. It was not a replacement for training, it was a companion to the training. When we moved to Intuiflow, we created Intuiflow U.demandurimpact.com. And what it is an overlay of a system we've created, right? So it's just a normal system, and then we use a tool to build in some helps to it. So it will take you through now, when we had it before, just university, there's really materials planning, and there was some S&OP functionality that would give you some support on. Now it's all the modules of the system. We're updating it when demand forecasting comes out. We'll add a module for that. And what it does is it allows you to kind of learn the system at your own pace. So we're implementing this now as part of our process when we're new customers. So you guys will see this in Freshmark, where as we go through training, we'll give you access to the site, and it will be a companion for you to go in and learn, all of the functions that you care to learn. So, like maybe you don't have scheduling and execution yet, but you're curious about it. Well, there's training in there about scheduling and execution. It's not Deborah intense, right? It's very high level, shows you how to use the functionality, but not necessarily way down deep in the weeds. Right? So you can do it. You can request access through the portal that Brian was just talking about, and then we'll set you up. It's also something that we could and have for some clients overlaid on like a QA instance. So if you wanted to say, hey, Dan, can you put Intuiflow University on my QA? That way, as I hire new people, I can let them go through this. It's not a problem. I don't think I would recommend putting it on production because it'll sit there. And then when you upgrade it, it'll go away and then you have to put it back on. I think once you've been in production in 2 or 3 months, you probably do it and don't need to have all those things out there. But there's a lot of helps. not going to cover all of them here, but if you want to catch me after this session when I'm out in the hall, I can give you a demo. All right. The last thing that I want to talk about as far as what we offer from our side. So we've had a lot of interest recently in some different help that we can give our customers. So normally when we think of our integrations team, it is implementation time, right? Take the data from our ERP, get it to Intuiflow, and then get it back. But we've been doing a lot more projects with clients who are saying, hey, we have multiple ERPs. We're going to try and consolidate those ERPs. We've got maybe some transformations of the data, right? In ERP A, there's part number 1, 2, 3, and now in the new one, it's changing part numbers for whatever reason. We just did a project like that with a client. We also have done some things where they have changed their blueprint or their footprint on their supply chain. Hey, Dan, we want to take all of our parts that are finished goods in these plants, consolidate them in one warehouse, and we'd like to take the part history from the consolidated plants into this, or from the original plants into this consolidated plants so that it all follows, right? So there's no gap in the thing. So our integrations team has done that successfully. We just did that maybe 2 weeks ago, right? So there's a lot of things that the integrations team is available to do that maybe wasn't as transparent to the group as it should have been. Also, we do some things out of the CS team that have been requested. So we do training. So maybe you guys went live, 2 years ago. And the team has turned over, right? Eric touched on that, right? The resources, the human resources part of it. And you'd like to have some more training. My team will do that. We get requests for that probably about once a month, maybe every other month. Health checks. So this is where we do a deep dive into your system, try to look at how you're using it. The way I like to think about it is when you go to the gym and you have a trainer, right? You know how to do the exercise in the gross motions, but the trainer is going to help you get better at doing those motions. It's going to come alongside and say, hey, maybe you're not pushing up the boat at the same rate or whatever else. So we're coming along, kind of showing you some of those things, maybe seeing some things that you've grown accustomed to, and we start questioning, well why would you do that? It's part of a conversation that gets you to think more deeply about how are you running this business. And then the last thing is consulting hours. So we do have several clients who like to just have us on for questions. We have some that have gone from implementation with us, going to go do their own implementations later on, but they want time with us to help plan that project or do the training or lead part of that, or it's just best practice. So everybody on my team is DDPP, DDLP, so they all understand the methodology. What's kind of cool for you, the client, is that at any one time, there are 3, maybe 4 implementations. So they're seeing a lot of different things, a lot of different businesses. So they can add, hey, here's what we're seeing with another client, the best practices. So just these are some things we can do to help you guys out. Certainly, if you have questions, you can reach out to Chris or to me. Happy to talk to you about how we can help you out.
And I was going to do a little quick demo here. On screen, where is it? Yep. All right. So here's Portal. Kind of the same thing you saw in the screenshots before, except now. So if I want to search real quick, so type in buffer. Right. So it's going to give you both content and the forms that may be related to the particular terms that you typed in. So in this case, I get a couple of articles that tell me what a buffer profile is, what the buffer trend report is. So you can see, it, again, derived from a lot of our previous end user documentation, but we're continuing to push a lot more content. Particularly things that are derived from integration scenarios or other customer support issues that we may have. So if I go back to the help and support home and not a touchscreen laptop. So if I look at technical support here, I want to ask a question. I can I can put the summary in here, red zone. And where is it? Come on. It is small. So as I'm entering the description of my ticket, it's going to give me a bunch of content there on the bottom. Pretty common for help and support sites, but definitely very useful because you may find a solution before you even submit the ticket. So once I submit this, my is weird. And get that done. I'll submit it. And here I can decide whether I want to share it with the rest of my organization or with no one. By default, it's share it with the organization. Send it. There we go. Simple as that. You see, I now have a ticket number in my inbox. I'm going to have a confirmation email. This is going to end up going to Dan eventually. And he'll come and ask me, what do you mean weird? So now I can go look at the list of requests. I can see that this was a question that I asked. Here's the reference. I can see what the current status is. It's for Intuiflow, and I was the requester. So the funny thing is getting ready for this conference, I went and created some test cases so I could demonstrate this list. And it turns out my support team is very efficient because she went and resolved all of them before, which is also useful because now I can also show you, I can come and filter by whatever status the request is, right? So, hey, I remember I opened some ticket 6 months ago and it's acting the same. What was the answer that I got there? So now I can look at close and resolve requests here, and now I can see these are all the tickets that I've submitted. So this is something that I know we've gotten lots of requests for in the past is, can you tell me what support tickets you guys have open and what the status of all of them are? And we can go run reports internally into your and email that back to you. You can go find it yourself, right? And this has kind of been there the whole time. So anyway, you can filter by all different kinds you can filter by request type. Lots of request types that don't show up. Some of these are legacy. That list will get a little bit shorter over time. I can search for a variety of different types of requests. I think that's about it.
Question for Brian or Dan? Okay.
Real quick, you mentioned site notifications on the portal. What sort of notifications are?
I'm sorry, I'll have to come over here. Too much time in the Air Force has killed my hearing.
Gotcha. You mentioned site notifications.
Yes.
What sort of notifications would we see on and what does that manifest? How does that look to the users? You have to go to the website to see the notifications.
Good question. So the question is, when do we send site notifications? What do they look like? What are the channels? It's been very difficult for us. So here's what, to answer your question. Yeah. You would see site notifications when we are going to perform disruptive maintenance, which doesn't happen very often, but sometimes because of the way Azure resources are constructed, if I want to shuffle things around, I have to destroy it and recreate it over here. I can't just move it. And that means that the site may be unavailable. We try to do those over weekends, right? Saturdays and Sundays, definitely off hours. Some customers do have import schedules that even run over the weekend. So we're kind of really cognizant about not nuking any kind of regular job. And in the past, we've had to contact customers individually about that, right? Which is very labor intensive for everybody, right? We have big spreadsheets. And because we weren't leveraging the online portal as much and paying attention to how customers and organizations were structured within the tool, it was very difficult for us to issue broad communications. Now we've got that cleanup effort done. You can expect admins will see an email and there'll be a banner in the online portal. So you won't have to go to the portal, but if you're on the portal, you'll see whether we've got something coming up. Typically beyond disruptive maintenance window, it'll be if there's some Azure outage that is causing problems. Right, because sometimes Microsoft has regional Azure errors, or they misconfigure their router or switches, and all of a sudden you can't get to your site anymore unless you were already logged in, and then you're good to go. And so those are the kind of things that we see through notifications.